Hi church family, it's Major Matt O'Neill and welcome to our Good Friday service. I pray you're all staying safe and connected through social media and other forms of ministry that we've been putting out. I just want to make sure that you know you're welcomed and you enjoy this Good Friday service. It's going to be a great time. Also, stay connected, give people handshakes, high fives, and hugs through social media. Send them a message. Give them a specific note. Do whatever you got to do. Make sure you're commenting below and just stating that you're there today. We are enjoying our time together. Both churches are combined, and we want to make sure that you're on time for Sunday service as well. Both sides, what East Side and West Side, will be having church service on Sunday morning through social media and the social distancing. I miss you guys. God bless you. Stay safe and enjoy our ministry.
When I was asked to give my testimony, the first thing I thought was, what will I say? If you know me good enough, you know that I can talk forever. So I'm going to focus on hope and trust. I have hope that our current situation will pass and our lives will return to normal. How do I have hope? Because I have my faith. Being raised in the Salvation Army, I have two favorite songs. These songs help me get through lots of tough times in my life. Here are my two favorite sections. Watching and waiting, looking above, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. And not a doubt or a fear, not a sigh or a tear, can abide while we trust and obey. Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Right now, we need to remember to trust in God, for He knows what He's doing while we don't.
The blood that Jesus shed for me, way back on Calvary. Oh, the blood that gives me strength from day to day. It will never lose its power. It reaches to the highest mountain. It flows to the lowest valley. Oh, the blood that gives me strength from day to day. It will never lose its power. It soothes my doubt and calms my fears, and it dries all my tears. Oh, the blood that gives me strength from day to day. It will never lose its power. It reaches to the highest mountain. It flows to the lowest valley. Oh, the blood that gives me strength from day to day. It will never lose its power. It reaches to the highest mountain. It flows to the lowest valley. Oh, the blood that gives me strength from day to day. It will never lose
It was at this place on the steps of the old courthouse in St. Louis 174 years ago today, and this is Monday of Holy Week 2020, that a man and a woman, husband and wife, stepped through these doors into the courthouse and sued for their freedom. They were slaves. Their names, Dred and Harriet Scott. And that began over the course of the next several years, a process going through state and federal courts, which would either allow them to become free or to remain slaves. This finally ended up in the Supreme Court of the United States, where perhaps the worst decision ever made by the U.S. Supreme Court was made, which did not allow the Scots their freedom. They had to remain slaves. All that took place here, these steps, here in St. Louis.
Some say he was an outlaw, and he roamed across the land with a band of unschooled ruffians and a few old fishermen. No
Jesus Christ was crucified for very specific reasons. Those of us who are part of the church, we have developed a whole system of thought and teaching and explanation to others, and especially to ourselves, why Jesus was crucified. But it's very clear that he was crucified only by authority of those who had the authority to put somebody to death through crucifixion in the first century in the Roman Empire. Crucifixion was a form of punishment of death that was reserved for political prisoners, for those who created civil unrest, who opposed the powers. And Pilate and the Roman authorities knew that Jesus was only going to be trouble. For that reason, it was expedient to get rid of him, as they did with many others during that first century in Palestine, because they were cause of unrest. But the real issue was not political expedience to quell civil unrest. The real reason behind it was that the power of Jesus was a power very different from the power of politics, of governments, of military, of court systems. It was a power that did not rely on violence, that did not rely on brute strength, on who had the biggest bombs, the biggest guns, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It was a very different power, grounded in a different kingdom than that of Pilate, who was troubled when Jesus gave him the answers. Jesus climbed a hill, and his climb to the hill was to a cross on which he would die, put to death by civil authorities, because he made them nervous, because they feared what he represented. Not only civil unrest, not only a threat to the powers that be, but to the power of this world. But it wasn't only because he threatened the laws of the Roman Empire and the Pax Romana, the peace which Rome pretended to extend throughout the known world, but he also threatened the type of power that Rome and all governments, all earthly powers, represent, one of strength. It is a very different strength from what we read about the Apostle Paul when he writes that every knee shall bow, every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. Those of us who understand the powers of this world interpret Paul's words meaning that Jesus will come with the bigger bombs, the larger fist, the bigger stick. But it is not that way at all. It is a power that invites others to come to the aid of those who are weak, who are vulnerable, who are without a voice, who have nothing in this world. For Jesus is the one who said to us, "When I hungered, you fed me. When I thirsted, you gave me water. When I was in prison, you came and visited me." This is the power of God, the power that draws us in and faces us with the choice to either respond or to ignore, not to trump the power of this world. The second reason for the death of Jesus on the hill outside of Jerusalem was that he was a blasphemer. He was a blasphemer in the sense that his words, what he taught people, was contrary to religious belief and practice of that time. It was not simply a matter of being contrary to the Jewish religion, because there were those of the Jewish faith then who listened and knew that something was being shared that was very different from the law. When Jesus spoke, he spoke of good news. And the good news threatened the understanding of what the law was about. The law was allied with the law of Rome. And though Rome's law was a political law that feared rebellion, The law of the religion of God's people was the law of righteousness, that if I observe the law, I am right with God, that through righteousness I am at peace with God. But it was only at my doing, my works, my ability. The law of the Jewish religion of that time directed people to stay away from certain other kinds of people. This was the law which Jesus broke continually all throughout his earthly ministry. The woman caught in adultery, tax collectors, sinners, Jesus was counted with. And this made no sense to the religious people of Jesus' time, as it also makes no sense to the religious people today of our time. Who is respectable? Who are we with? This is probably a specialty of Salvation Army, that we tend to go to the places no one else will go to. We go to the people no one else will go to. We become friend of the sinner. To be good, respectable, religious people means certain kinds of people are avoided, for we will be tainted. We will be made unclean. But Jesus ate with the sinner. He reconnoitered in places where the religious would not. So the Jesus who refused to follow the religious ways that were demanded of those who called the shots regarding religion brought him into conflict with the good religious people. It's likely that today, whenever people are brought into conflict with good religious people, you might smell a rat. Jesus, thus, is crucified for breaking the law of Rome. He's a rebel. For breaking the law of religion, he is a blasphemer. But last of all, he is crucified alone, forsaken, abandoned, feeling forgotten by his Father. Jesus on the cross in his final moments says to us, he said to them on the hill, and he says to us today, Father, why have you forsaken me? And in those words, Jesus expresses a deep abandonment, which is beyond understanding. But it is certainly an experience that any of us who are people of faith do understand. At times where we do not comprehend pain and separation and death and trouble and suffering. And on the cross, Jesus experiences this, and the one who he was sent to witness to, his Father, the one who he spoke the words of, his Father, the one who was his Father, has abandoned him. And in that deep abandonment, any human being can understand that experience. Jesus Christ, the rebel, Jesus Christ, the blasphemer, Jesus Christ, the abandoned, forsaken. This is the experience we have gathered and commemorate on this day we call Good Friday. God bless you as you think on these things and as you prepare for Easter. Amen.